22nd, 2025. And the Board of Commissioners of the Town of Hardwick Electric Department is meeting. Commissioner Ambrosino, Commissioner Demers, and Commissioner,
Yeah, sure, cut.
I had Tosh and I can't just not out of my head. I'm really sorry, Miles. And Commissioner Dyken are all here. We also have Eric Remick and Scott Johnston and our new general manager, Sarah Bryce, and Beth Esri is also here. Have a quorum. Are there any modifications of the agenda? The only thing that I would like to add, and we can add it at the end, is just a brief update on what's happening on the electric, Hardwick Lake. I'm having trouble speaking today. The Hardwick Lake, committee. So the first item is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, any objection?
Second.
Second, thank you. I'm telling you, this is not. It's been a very long thing. Okay, so the next item is approval of the minutes. Their motion?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the motion passed, and one of you gentlemen will need to sign the minutes, because I was not at that. Next time was public comment.
This is a big public hearing.
So that was hello.
No.
Okay, which takes us to the general manager's report.
Yeah, so hi, I'm glad to be here. It's been a busy couple weeks, started January 6th, and it has been pretty much nonstop since then. But as you know, reported in my report, the renovations continue. We are anticipating bathroom fixtures to come in this week, and hopefully the whole bathroom will be completed within the next week or so, which is big news because it's been about 3 or 4 years since since that project started. Flooring continues. We're moving along with the contractors and very much looking forward to that space to be completed. The FEMA related projects, I'll kind of lean on Beth as I missed the first, contractor consultant meeting, but it's moving along. We've signed a couple of the engineering proposals and continue to move forward.
We got the engineering proposal for the sluice gate. D&K is gonna be doing that, and we signed that today, so that project's gonna get started. The penstock repair, I contacted the engineers who were just doing the study for the damage report, and they expect to have that this month, so we don't have that yet.
How does that relate to the DEC approval? What is? I had read the report and it says that things were awaiting an approval from.
Oh, the DEC, that is the improvements that we want to do to the hydro building itself, like putting in the hurricane-proof door.
Okay, okay, when I read building mitigation, I didn't know.
FEMA deems that mitigation because we're making it better than what it was.
No, but I didn't know that. I didn't know that was expressly to the building, or if it was more generally.
Right.
Building mitigation measures, and that was, okay,
That's what
got
it
it.
is.
And one update, you didn't hear from her
Yeah.
this
It took her 4 months to respond to me, and all she said was, tell me about the project.
but we made contact.
The FEMA and the state both know that we're waiting on her.
Why, what is their issue?
She
I mean,
just,
why is it even an environmental issue on the building?
I don't know why. It's what they deem has to be done before we can proceed any further. But doing any work, we have to get their permission to do that work on it.
I think my understanding is like with most of the A&R things and DEC jurisdiction dams, that it has to meet with their floodplain plans, just the way that, RBC work and energy
This is
work.
building work in a floodplain.
Correct, yep, yeah, and I think it's even more complicated because it's in Wolcott, and that's actually a different district than Hardwick. So Hardwick itself is in one district and the dam and Wolcott are different.
Are FEMA consultants still involved?
Yes.
Great.
Oh, yes.
And is the individual at BIPSA who was helping move along the Walker rebuild still involved?
He hasn't been involved in it so much. Scott did a lot of that when he was doing the work.
Mhm.
As far, and a lot of that included the generator and turbine. Most of that is done. There's just a small amount that we're waiting on a part from Canada to get across the.
Because of the work though, because the penstock is damaged, and because of the work that needs to be done on that, we talked about having an analysis done of whether or not it was worth doing all of this. Has there been any progress? Is anyone doing that, and has there been any progress on that analysis?
I'm not aware of anything, Scott.
So
He was.
you need the damage report first from Gomez and Sullivan, so they're gonna tell you what it would cost to repair it in kind and what it will cost to repair it via mitigation. You need those numbers, they'll do a benefit cost analysis.
Okay, so that's,
So then we'll have to find somebody presumably through DRS or that knows how to do a benefit cost analysis. That'll be a second step.
but if we've signed other contracts, isn't it premature to be signing those
That was-
contracts?
That was the penstock, we signed the contract.
And that's.
I'm sorry,
that's-
I said the wrong word, the sluice gate.
Right, but if we're not gonna, we have to do the sluice gate anyway, and even if we're not gonna run the.
Well, the sluice gate helped prevent flooding.
Okay,
And it's being paid for by FEMA.
I think those funds have already been
Yeah.
received too.
Yeah, he was paying.
yeah, that was where I was going with all of this, is if we weren't gonna be running.
The problem is one of time, and the sluice gate's been in place for a long time, so.
Yeah, no, I know it's, I know it's,
Shut up, but-
No, go ahead. What?
Is FEMA not covering everything?
They cover 90%
Right, but I mean,
Of recovery, they
of
don't.
recovery.
Mitigation, 75%.
so mitigation, you have to lobby them for the mitigation.
Mitigation, it
You have
depends
to
on what
prove
the
it.
numbers.
There's several steps you have to go through to get the mitigation.
But
but your questions about the penstock is,
That will be a negotiation, for sure. I don't see any way they'll pay for 100% of it because of the cost of if you do mitigation, it's gonna cost millions of dollars. And the recovery would probably cost, hundreds of thousands or below millions of dollars, so. I don't expect that they'll offer you dollar for dollar on mitigation, I think they'll offer you a lot. And then your analysis has to be, so if the penstock's the new penstock will last 80 to 100 years, is it a good investment or not? I think it will be now that the new law in the line values RECs at a much higher level than the old law did, which it's around $40 a megawatt now. So that facility will generate more money for you than it ever has in the past, once it can run it. But you did ask.
yeah,
me
no, I mean, my
what
gut
you
sense
got.
has been that it's probably worth doing, but we need to nevertheless
Exactly.
not go on people's gut sense.
You
and
just,
have-
you just need to know the cost, how much FEMA's gonna
Yeah.
give you before you can do a BCA. You need those two data inputs first.
My concern was whether we were doing any work prematurely, and it sounds like we're not.
No.
So,
There may be some, if there is a gap in what FEMA will pay and what needs to be shelled out to do that, if it becomes a benefit, I think there are other hydropower incentive programs, and reimbursement programs that were announced a couple of years ago, or maybe a couple of years ago now, but it's basically a return. And if you have created any improved efficiencies in your plant, then that can actually be reimbursed as well through a different federal funding program.
and are those federal funding, do you expect that those will remain intact?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the piece that should be determined, as we all know, but it's specific to small hydropower.
Yeah.
Which I think is as a base load,
Well, at least it's not wind.
One Sarah's talking about are not those affiliated with Biden's final They're core, long-term DOE programs that existed all through Trump one. So no one knows, but the odds are good. The program she's talking about, I'm just saying, nobody knows, but the odds are good, I would say.
Sorry, no, that's, but yeah, I was able to go out with Trevor and view the facility and kind of see the damage and get a, full picture of it, which was pretty eye-opening. Definitely looking forward to moving this along and helping that rebuilt, or at least analyzed for that rebuild, because I do think that, as Scott said, it's gonna be pretty valuable, or can be pretty valuable in markets, long-term, and for state compliance. Speaking of state and regulatory affairs and compliance, there's just a couple notes on the Department of Public Service. I know that Commissioner Carrick Johnson was appointed to the Department of Public Service. Our integrated resource plan will be due this year. I spoke with the engineering firm earlier today, who will do kind of the system analysis study and look at where potential trouble areas may be. So he's got about a six-ish month time frame. I anticipate that analysis will be complete in November. We have a proposal in hand and we'll kind of review that and get that signed, so at least we're on his work schedule.
Do we need to apply for an extension?
We likely will, yes.
Well, the times you talked about, we definitely will, so we can, should that be something interesting?
So Bevsa tends to help us, Steve's team, Steve and Amanda, and they help kind of prepare the whole document and use the load forecast that Bevsa gets for the entire membership base. And so once we kind of get through their current round of rate cases and IRPs, I think they're supposed to reach out in February-ish, and we'll determine when we will file an extension. And I think there's a couple paths to go. We can either file for the extension for the full report, knowing that we won't have that analysis complete until, end of the year. Or we can try and, present what we do have, what we know or anticipate coming, and then, acknowledge that these reports will be making a significant impact on capital planning and infrastructure.
And before those go to the department and the PUC, they need to come to the board. And it would be good to have some kind of a briefing on what they're planning on, from VEPSA on that fairly early in the process, so that to the extent that there are comments from the commissioners, those can be incorporated or considered and not have it just be a top-down analysis from VEPSA.
Correct.
What it has been in the past.
What I can do, and I can request this of his team, the staff over there, is to have them run through the actual requirements. The section 202F, I think, is where it actually lays out all of the IRP requirements, and so they can walk through the process, how early they engage with the department, how the department itself, our department is engaged in that process as well. So if that would be helpful, I can ask them to come to the next
I
meeting.
think that would be great.
It's also necessary now, just for what it's worth, in past IRPs, the department and PUC didn't make you demonstrate what sort of public involvement you had. And now they do. So it has to come to a body like this, so the public has a chance to see a warrant agenda and come and talk to you.
Yeah,
In the past, that was not a requirement, it is.
okay, well, even more so, then we need to see it before we start having discussions with the public about it, so that we have some idea of what we're talking about.
I haven't been through an IRP process.
None of us have.
Okay. There you go. Okay, so if we as a commission decide that we have aspirational and exciting things that we wanna consider, is the IRP the place that we explore feasibility and put down those goals, or I'm thinking of things like batteries and person. Like are those sorts of longer term, large scale projects, do those land in the IRP, or is that not the correct venue for them?
So it's a 3-year cycle to submit them, but it's a 20-year plan. So
Okay.
yes, if there are certain objectives or initiatives that you want to see,
Mhm.
built into system planning, then that is exactly the place to do it.
Great. And do we lean on BEPSA for kind of the menu of things that we may want to be considering? Do we bring them? Do we bring them to BEPSA? How do we?
I mean, I think the overview process will be helpful because there are certain requirements and what to explore and how to meet those electrification goals. And I don't have the materials in front of me to be able to run through each of those bullet items, but I think that's a good first step. And then I think soliciting feedback from the commissioners would be helpful, and obviously from the public eventually as well.
Great.
To understand, if there are forward initiatives or objectives that customers are expecting, and is our system capable of meeting those needs? But yeah, I think there's two ways to go about it. We can be the tail, and Vesta can kind of lead that effort, or it can be the opposite, and where we are driving more so what those goals should be and how your vision is to meet electrification state mandates.
I hope it will be a collaborative process.
Which is what I intend. I think sometimes it's a checkbox, and that's not necessarily what the state is accepting now.
One thing I would just offer about us is, and they hate it when I say this, but, their job as a membership organization is to kind of find the middle of what the membership is interested in. So they'll bring you all the requirements. To your point, if you want to be aspirational, you'll need to nudge them. The staff is really happy to go there the second they get an indicator that you might be interested in something, but my sense of where you all are and want to be is that they'll probably come in a little bit below that, until they understand that there's an openness, and then you'll get all kinds of ideas from them. So they'll be off of you, I'm put it that way. Is that fair, sir?
Yes, yep. I think the engineering firm is also very, the conversation I had this morning with Matt Donnells was great. And I think that he's certainly willing to look at other ways that power systems configurations can work. And it not be, full on new substations or things like that to meet load and demand, so. Any other items on the IRP? We got more forthcoming. And then like I have on here, and I know Beth is gonna go through it as well, is our cost of service and revenue requirements. And I think that we will be going into that in more detail, but my understanding is that come early February, we'll be meeting with Steve and the rates team to run through potential rate increases. IBEW contract negotiations, I received an email from the business manager for the IBEW, and we'll be meeting just an introduction at first, but those negotiations will start, I imagine, the next couple of months as well for the contract with, and I know that the commission and I assume council will also be there as part of those conversations.
Yeah, we'll have to have a discussion about council.
Okay.
Who is the business manager?
Jeffrey Lamette. And yeah, the board of directors, Webster board of directors, I've been there, I went to the first meeting in January, and it's been interesting sitting on the opposite side of the table, so. There are several other items, that are popping up, and I'll try to be kind of more timely and just providing notice to the commission so that you guys are aware of what's going on. If there are questions, as I get settled in, I appreciate your input and feedback.
Thank you. Any questions? This was helpful, yeah. And I think, if there are things that we should be aware of, let us know. Shouldn't have to wait till the next meeting.
Right.
Here on meeting bank authorization, I'm guessing that's your turn.
The bank authorization. So that has to do with signatures that are on the Union Bank. Right now it's me, Scott, and all the members of the board. So we need to remove Scott, and add Sarah. I recommended keeping y'all on as signatories in case she's not here. One of y'all, you're always easy to get a hold of. So I would like to keep her, to keep y'all on there as well. You need to pass a motion, but they're gonna send the documents electronically to each of you for signature. So we just need a motion to remove Scott and add Sarah.
So make a motion.
What's the motion? I'm not so right. I make a motion that,
Go ahead.
I don't know, gotcha. Actually,
I move that we remove Scott as a signatory on the new bank accounts and Sarah. Is there a second?
I can check.
Any discussion?
No,
All in favor?
I,
Motion passes.
Be looking for an email from the bank for y'all to sign the documents of it. Because we have to all sign them all over again.
And hopefully they'll get there. The last time we did this, it kept, yeah.
We'll get there.
Yeah. Okay, are there any questions on the financial?
yeah. It looks like the pilot expenses went up. Why was there such a big change in pilot?
What, where?
I'm sorry, on page 14.
The ILT taxes,
408.
that's gonna be PILT, that's the town, all the property taxes went up, and which included the payment for the taxes to the town. Hardwick.
So this is reflecting the 2024 increases in property taxes.
Yes.
that-
Then I think everybody wanted,
52%.
It's the way the state mandates the calculation of the value of the bills. So while she has to depreciate them on your books and they go down, the state's methodology is the town consider your whole T&D system is brand new every year.
No, but I think that if I understand Michael's question, which does make sense, and I hadn't thought about it, is that we had budgeted
130.
$130,000.
and then we got the tax bill.
And the
in,
tax
it was
bill was
198.
almost 200,000.
Right.
And
Because
so that's not a function of valuation, that's a function of the tax increase.
it's both.
It's both, they changed the valuation.
They increased
changed the
the value, okay.
Correct. That's what I was trying to say.
And
The
did we
downside.
contest the valuation? I mean, have we,
On the polls and wires, you cannot. It's a state formula that is all the towns get and they're.
and there's no ability to contest?
Not that I'm aware of, I'm not determined. We're told it's, you just have to do what they say, on things like dams and stuff, and buildings, you can go in and appeal.
No, I you get your assessment and you can go to whomever,
You're supposed to just do it.
that seems.
It's in here, you should check, I'm not 1,000%.
That's a question for Eli, I would guess, my fear is that if we could have done it, we missed the deadlines to do it.
It started off a couple years ago, I remember they gave an extension for communities to try and provide all the documentation for the poles and wires, but the formula change has been in the works, I think, for a while, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
Everybody have left with us.
I think it's not getting too long, one of the larger bills.
Yeah, it's a big gap, and it's a lot.
50% for.
Most of the tax bills went up. Right about 30 to 50%. It's just that Hardwick's is so huge, it really took a big chunk out.
But Hardwick's. I should probably pay more attention to my tax bill, but I didn't think they went up 50%.
Last year, we're talking about the tax bills that are due May
Yeah.
10th. I think the increase was 7.
I was gonna say, I think it was
Yeah.
under 10%.
But this would be for all the towns, right? All the towns in service?
The 4087.
This is,
Are you talking about the bill that's coming up this coming May?
Well, you should already have.
Talking about the regular tax rate.
well, there are two items in here, there's property and other taxes, which is presumably property taxes, and that also went up about 50%.
That's everybody else.
That's everybody else, the
Hardwick.
pilot is just Hardwick.
And this is what was actually paid in 24. June of 24.
Right. And the other towns did not go up as much as I mean, that's looking at, this is the year-to-date number, and Hardwick went up 53%. And everybody else went up 38%
On the average.
on average.
To some extent, it depends on how much infrastructure those wires are having each. I suspect.
The increase.
I'm supposing that, I'm not sure, but I
I'm
think so.
not sure about that, because there might be some places that are less dense, but. But 2/3 of our customers are in Hardwick, so yeah, it's probably the case.
Anyway,
You probably have a better sense of that, Rena, than any of us.
The tax map.
No, where
Also poles.
our poles and wires are, where we have the most. Whether it's in Hardwick or whether it's outside of Hardwick.
We would have,
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, but that makes sense mathematically, if the,
I don't know what the numbers would be. Quantities.
Yeah.
Honest.
we can certainly.
My-
Yeah, and you know, see what the law says, if there is the ability to contest it. And it's disturbing if there is some kind of a formula that doesn't bear any relation to. The value in rate base of what these were worth, and they're certainly not brand new. And that I mean, other businesses don't have their assets valued on a formula. And why? This is just another way of taxing people, but it's taxing people based on their electricity usage, which tends. Is not necessarily a particularly progressive way of taxing people.
I think we just know what the formula is.
What?
It'd be good to know what the formula is. What the inputs are.
Well, yeah, anyhow, see what you can find and, okay, yeah.
Thanks, Ron.
No, I can find it quickly.
Yeah, I had, so the November numbers in kilowatt hour usage is from September? Is there two,
This is November, so it's an actual November.
it's the actual November usage?
Yes.
So is November much warmer than what we had, I was trying to remember, because the electricity usage was way down in November from budget. I mean, our year-to-date is lower for residential and for commercial, it's pretty flat for industrial.
Commercial's quite a bit lower.
What,
Commercial's quite a bit lower.
yeah,
the cost of power on the market in November was. Low, like.
no, I'm looking at kilowatt hours, I'm looking at
But even then, we really got the kilowatt hours to what you paid.
yeah,
Both that you used less, but also the price would be much lower than expected too.
yeah,
There was a lot of natural gas,
I'm sorry,
there was a lot of natural gas generation available.
Yeah.
At the time. Vacation in January.
any other questions?
And it,
The market.
the change in distribution maintenance, was that labor or problem? That's because you were outside labor?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Yeah.
Bratton, a lot of the work they did.
Any other questions on the financial report? Which takes us to budgets.
So I wanted to say a couple of things. This is the memo that I sent out with the board packet last month that gave some explanatory things. Y'all need to see that again, want to see that again?
Yeah. I didn't pull up.
Okay. A change we made today was for the system deficiency study, which we increased it by 15,000, which Doesn't affect net income, but it does lower the cash at the end of the year by 15,000. I have some updated sheets if y'all want those, if you need them. I would like to show that it affected the cash flow. So, want to do this as well. That's the new capital addition showing it's at 50,000 instead of the 35.
Oh, these are copies for everybody.
There's plenty. Just pass those around there for the meeting.
This means I gave you a bad estimate. That was my fault.
I think, it was by necessity. And I think when I spoke with, the engineering firm today, it was a little bit clearer what all is going to be required. And just how deep and based on what sort of CAD drawings and data we have for actual, specifications of our equipment and enclosures and that sort of thing, what their really capacities are. Without having that right off, I think it creates a little bit more extra work. So that's gonna drive up the cost slightly, but they're all things considered quite reasonable. The scope that can be doing.
There should be the minimums with the capital sheet
Yep.
and then a statement piece. Showing the cash flow.
Have we gotten any projections on health insurance and, I mean, in the past, some of the big driver on expenses has been,
Health insurance, we actually switched insurance because the longer movie is gonna go up 25%. So we switched back to MVP, which we've had before. They only, from what we were at, they only went up 22%, I believe. So
the same policy.
Only 22%.
Only.
Well, compared to 25 where we were.
No, I'm just wondering about the budgetary impacts on that. Yeah. I wish we didn't have to put in an anticipated wage increase and pay that in the budget, because it just prejudices us in our ability to negotiate. Is there an expectation about property tax increase for next year?
Yeah, but it sounds like your pilot though is based on
It's both, it's both.
If you're ready, I don't know.
Yeah,
Basically, as I understand it, is that the value that you tax us on is determined by the state formula. But then you impose the same tax rate because it's a payment in lieu of taxes. But the problem is we're not being valued the same way the rest of the property is, but we're getting hit with the tax rate that applies to the rest of the property.
So, yeah, so I guess two comments on the pilot. One is, don't forget that a year or two ago, we decreased the pilot. Right, because it was higher, we decreased it, we agreed that we would base it on the same tax rate that our electric district.
I'm not saying that we shouldn't, I remember that distinctly and the town had to deal with the delta that wasn't helpful for the town. No, I understand that, I'm not suggesting
That we change it.
that we change it, the problem is in the valuation end of it, but the combined effect is that we're not assessed in the same way. And so it's.
Right, but in answer to your other question, the select board has voted to ask the voters. Or the budget that we're presenting to the voters on town meeting includes a 10% increase this year.
Okay.
Which is huge, it's the biggest one I've ever seen since I've been on board. I hope people show up at town meeting to talk about it, hope people read their town report ahead of time.
Oh, that's good.
Some people do, yeah.
I mean, I for one, I can't speak for other people, I need more time to digest things on the budget, I'm not prepared to vote on it at this point,
Would it make sense to try and call a shorter special meeting specifically jump on the budget so that it can move forward?
might make
Okay.
sense.
Give some
Well,
extra time to go through it and have Roger present as well.
yeah, it would be good for everyone to be here and, yeah, I don't have a problem with doing that. And, you know, now that we've got the updated material, which we didn't have, you know, we just haven't had time to really go through all of this, and so, yeah, I would like to.
I'm sorry if I'm not tracking this well, but I'm also, even with these in hand, I'm not totally clear what the difference between this version and last one.
The net income, there is no difference.
Okay,
It's on the cash flow page.
okay,
On the second page of the cash flow, the net change is it went down $15,000.
so that is the only change since
Yes.
the December meeting,
Yes,
So
okay,
when you say it went down, you're saying the net cash flow, the 118,000 was 133,000 or something?
right numbers, show me the right numbers. Cash flow at the end of the year was originally roughly 337.
Okay, at the bottom, okay.
Yes,
Yeah, okay, I was looking at the
end
net
of the year,
cash flow.
sorry,
So,
sorry, end of the year,
Yeah.
down by 15,000, that's only change from when I sent out the. Impact.
And that's a reflection of.
right, but we just got the packet on Friday, so,
and the no changes to capital planning,
Yes, the capital sheet shows that the cost of that project went from 35 to 50,000.
so that is the only change.
Yes. We just got that information today.
so it's a budget with basically a $300,000 cushion
Yes,
in terms of cash.
yes.
That's pretty thin. No, I mean, it's, you know, it's one storm, it's a
Yeah.
big storm or a flood or. That's it,
And you still have to pay accounts payable.
Yeah.
State guard.
Yeah.
A lot of money.
yeah, no, it's not, it's not. And I'm just, that's one of the things
That's
that
why
I'm,
we don't really use.
I want to mention that on the capital addition sheet. Things that are in the column that says base 2025 budget,
I'm
this is
sorry,
on page. It's on schedule 1340, page 40.
There's none of it, so.
Oh, it's right there, but you can't hardly see it. It's on page 40.
is that this sheet?
The big packet.
Yeah.
Oh, in the big package,
Oh, well, you can
I
look
don't-
at that, you can look at that one as well, when I just gave.
because I don't have, these pages are, oh, page 40 of 45,
Yes,
got it, sorry,
that's all right. It's hard to see it because the height that says 40 and 45 is mixed
Yeah,
in.
no, my pages are sticking together, okay, oh, yeah, I see what you mean.
Okay, so the column that says base 2025 budget.
Yeah.
That's the one that we are, for cash flow purposes, we're assuming we're paying those out of cash. There is an opportunity if we should need to, that we, for instance, the 185,000 for GIS mapping. There's a
Okay.
possibility that DEPSA might do some financing on that if they have, enough people needing it. So some of those might allow for financing instead of paying them straight out of cash. So that would boost cash as well.
Okay, and if we get the FEMA money in on the hydro stuff,
That cash flow includes the FEMA money.
it includes the FEMA money, so
Yes.
this is their 20% or whatever. Or 10%, whatever.
10%,
10%.
yes.
I see what you're saying.
And,
Okay,
and it also includes actually paying off the $200,000 line of credit as well as the $300,000 your note, which we could roll those over if we need to.
okay, and what about, because what I'm seeing here is nothing for trucks, and I know we had talked about
With trucks.
What?
I see trucks.
I see trucks, but I don't see anything in the budget for trucks.
We've got it under the column that says additional budgets.
Oh, I'm
for-
sorry,
to-
yeah,
that's-
5 pages from.
That's considered financing.
Okay, so we are financing those, that's what I wanted to make sure that we were,
Yes.
okay.
I think the current plan of emergency service, one's in this budget. And the other one will go out to full bid, which means it won't be delivered till 26.
Okay.
So there'll be, we're hiring one through a short form process, which will be this year's budget, and another one that we're gonna do full bid. So you don't have to budget for that, you need to be aware of it, but because you're gonna be making a commitment for an expenditure in 26.
But the 375 is just for 25.
Correct.
Okay, so we're looking at 1.5 million finance
So I don't know.
Yes. Around.
Yeah, yep,
in round numbers,
yes. If we do all of those,
if we do all of those this year.
And that will make the state happy in your week.
Yes.
Probably remember they cut.
Oh, yeah,
rates
no,
Because
no,
you weren't far enough in debt.
it will make some commission, it will make some, there are some of us who. And I've made no bones about that, I think that long-term expenses. At least some portion of them should be. Paid for in debt, because otherwise current ratepayers are paying for things to benefit future ratepayers.
I just don't think the state should mandate it too. That should be your choice.
Yeah, no,
That's
That I-
my-
that I
sorry,
agree
that's my
with.
soapbox.
that I agree with completely, but yeah, no, I think we all remember. That process, is there a time that generally works for?
Evenings.
Sarah, what, if you can just send out something to everyone with some dates and
Is
times?
a virtual meeting fine, or would you prefer to have it in person? Or the option for in person?
Either works for me.
Yeah, virtual would be easy because a lot of us travel, so for someplace else, it should be.
Or at least if it's combined,
Yeah.
sometimes it's easier looking at things if there is a lot to be in person. And it would be. I mean, maybe we can do it when. In 2 weeks when you're here, when that's here.
I won't be here.
Oh.
I gotta hang those down.
Okay, so but you could be on Zoom,
Absolutely,
okay,
absolutely.
Tuesday, virtual.
that's the when we're
Yep.
meeting, actually, I'm. Trying to think. I think, I don't know about other people, I would prefer, if we're gonna be doing it in 2 weeks, I would prefer. A. Thursday. That makes. For other people. Only. Yeah, I have a class, it's. Ending 5, so. it's a little- I'll send around a couple.
Yeah.
Or we could be, like, if we meet at 7 o'clock, then I'm fine with Tuesday,
Perfect.
and if we're doing it on
So
Zoom,
Zoom's easy.
and it just means that you have to be here because it's a public meeting. Or someplace where. It's accessible to. the public. Okay.
And this will be the only agenda item, correct? The budget.
Barring anything else. They are not the required stretch attention.
And one more for the 421.01, page 38.
38.
Page 38. Difference in rec sale and FEMA. How much is rec and how much is FEMA?
You go back and my little thing sheet.
You're on 38 of 45 in the budget?
Yeah.
Why am I 421.01?
Yeah.
Income miscellaneous? Okay, yeah, okay, just.
Let's see, it's insurance, FEMA. We are looking to get. That's.
Is this the higher forecast on Rex?
I mean, you know, I mean,
But we don't have any because we
FEMA,
Must be.
yeah, it's the FEMA reimbursement.
It's all FEMA.
I mean, we're looking at like up to $1 million in FEMA reimbursements.
So are there no tier two rec sales, or we have some tier two rec sales?
There should be some for the net metering for solar.
Yeah. That's right.
Not a lot, but
Yeah.
I mean, I think,
Thing.
yeah, so about a couple $100,000. And then you'll see that number, I think it'll be higher than it was in previous years once the hydro does get.
Yeah.
Which is good. Okay, which takes us, why don't we come off the executive session and then folks who've been going to the urban lake meeting, could give us an update.
Hardwick.
The feasibility study is what we've come up with, and that is going to be done. I believe sometime to spring here, Creek,
Feasibility of what?
of removing the dam. And that's about all.
And that's feasibility and economic feasibility, or what's the scope of what they're looking at? Are
What
they,
they're looking at is basically the effects of removing the dam and what it would do to the floodwaters through the village. And also downstream of the dam, the effects if it were removed. And how Hardwick Lake would respond as well.
so would that include some of the effects on the wildlife?
Yes. And basically that's
This is the one right across from the barn.
yes, yes.
Have you guys pursued any funding or support? Oddly enough, just received an email from the state that there's funding available and already and within the state's hands about feasibility studies and sort of reviewing smaller dams and whether to remove and to support remediation if needed or removals or. I don't know if you guys are using any of that, but I can certainly pass along some information.
So I think if this is all the same process.
Yeah.
So no, it's not, okay, yeah, so yes, so the answer is yes,
Okay,
it is being covered through the state program.
okay.
And we actually had somebody come from the state to the select board and say, you know, would you like us to look into this? And we said, yes, and several of us on the board said our biggest concern is what would the effect of flooding be? Would it be, you know, would it be better or worse, and where if the dam wasn't there? But also looking at the environmental impacts and the ecological effects.
So is DNR involved in it?
So it is, I don't remember who it is, it's,
Or I don't know, is it Fish and Wildlife? I mean, I know that there are loons in the lake,
yep,
and there are eagles
yep.
And Osprey.
and osprey.
So who's doing the feasibility? Who is doing the feasibility? So
I don't know her name, but she's with the
I know, state something,
So somebody from the state,
yes,
great,
it's a state, yeah.
yeah,
but I don't remember which it is.
Yeah, I don't either.
great.
And it's true that there's lots of bird life there, that's, you know. There, my understanding is that from the water dwelling creatures like fish and others. It's kind of the worst case scenario, because it's not actually a lake and it's not actually a river, because it gets drained. So sometimes it's a lake and sometimes it's a river.
No, I don't know what's in the water, but I see the birds, you know.
Right, and would they still be there if the dam was there, like would there be enough water, like this is what we hope to learn.
You might suggest at some point in the process, at critical times, and you could identify what the milestones are. Since at the end of this study, any action actually has to come back here You might want to be briefed in a couple of days, on the committee. I don't know where those points would be, but if there's key points along the way, make sure that they want to remove it, they have to come ask you if it's okay.
Right,
They can remove it.
well, and that's, but I think the reason that we have somebody on the committee is not to express opinions because we don't speak of individuals. So it's to understand what the process is and what's going on and what, and that's why I asked Reno if he would give us an update and just regularly after any our next meeting, unless it's something urgent where we need to know before. Just to keep us apprised.
I made,
And if there are things where there are questions for us in the process, then those need to come back to Sarah and to the board. Before anything is responded to.
one of the comments that I made is that the Hardwick electric property is basically we would sell it.
Okay, so that's not,
If,
yeah, that's,
if that was their direction, it would have to be sold. Then would also have to go to
yeah,
probably a public.
that's a conclusion that we haven't reached yet. And those are the kinds of things that we should not be offering comments on, in my view, because we haven't made a decision as a board.
And I realize that, I'm just saying that it would probably have to be sold. Not saying that we would sell it or not sell it.
I
So. You're even bargain. 7 for the price of 1.
yeah. We have, there are 2 executive sessions that we need to have. Liam isn't going to be joining us until 7. Yeah. Do we have time for the 2 executive sessions?
Yeah, we probably have time for the first one.
And that's employment. Okay, Aaron, cause I think we would invite you to be in the second session,
I can exit for the first one.
if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
I don't know whether we want you to go or not, do you want?
Either way,
Do you want something here?
I think, yes, I think.
I know what you're talking about, so.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, yeah, so we've got 3 executive sessions.
I mean, I think there's not a whole bunch of.
Oh, no, that's true, yeah, okay, yeah, yes, we want, Scott, we want you here.
So can I just ask if you make a motion to go into executive session for the second one? And then
Yes,
could you also,
I'll come get you.
could you also instruct down the steps and
sure,
Bring it from the dam.
okay, yeah, we're
be
gonna,
magically
we're
material?
gonna be doing that at 7.
At 7,
Okay,
okay.
in the village.
All right, so you're.
I don't think so. My
Okay,
opinion, but
I would like to move that we go into an executive session to discuss a customer matter, a potential customer. Is there a second?
Second.
Can we? Use the recording? Yeah. It is 7 PM and we are out of executive session, no action was taken. Aaron, you on there? Hello, Liam. We're waiting for a couple of people, and
He's on his way.
yeah. I guess we can start a motion.
Yeah.
I move that we go into executive session to discuss a litigation matter, the premature disclosure, which could prejudice the interests of private partners. We are out of executive session at 8:14. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to hire Liam Murphy of MSK Attorneys to help us in litigation.
Is there a second? All in favor? Oh, and we took no action in executive session. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Any opposition, hearing none, we are adjourned.